Tonight, we turn modest broccoli and potatoes into a satisfying bake using one simple trick. I start with a dense green head of broccoli, holding it by the stem and letting the knife follow the natural seams so bite-sized florets fall away. What city are you watching my recipes from? Write in the comments. A large saucepan waits. The florets slide in, and I cover them with just enough cold water to touch the tops. A light sprinkle of salt, then a small splash of milk. A cafe trick I discovered that keeps the green vibrant and the flavor mild. Heat is gentle. 2 to 3 quiet minutes is all this needs. When the color is rich and a fork meets moderate resistance, you're done. While the pot is heating, I scrub 3 potatoes and cut them neatly into small cubes so they cook evenly. A quick rinse removes surface starch, then I pat dry. Dry sides mean better browning later. My husband applauds tiny cubes because they create extra crust. I like a little larger for a creamy inside. Which team are you on? Tell me in the comments. And if you're new here, subscribe so you can find this cozy kitchen again. Back to the pot. Broccoli is bright and cooked. I spoon it out with a slotted spoon, spread it on a tray, and let the steam drift off so the bite stays nice. If I'm planning ahead, I chill it for a bit to lock in that color. The kitchen already smells clean and sweet, the kind of smell that calls my beagle to sit beside my feet like a little inspector. I set a skillet over medium and melt a small pat of butter until it turns glossy but not brown. This will be the landing pad for our potatoes in the next step. Little choices like these, gentle heat, dry cubes, patient stirring, are what makes simple ingredients taste like comfort. Stay with me. We'll build golden edges, fold in soft vegetables, and bring everything together into one friendly bake. The butter is gleaming and the pan hot, and I add the potato cubes in a single layer. A light sprinkling of salt comes next, followed by a grind of black pepper for warmth. I add a bit of dried garlic and brush it across the surface so that it opens up in the heat without turning bitter. If the pan is dry, I add a teaspoon of oil instead of more butter so nothing burns. My beagle now sits at my feet like a little inspector, waiting for the cook's share. I keep the heat at medium. Patience does the work. The cube's color, I flip again, then rub a pinch of dried rosemary between my fingers and let the oils awaken before it hits the pan. The kitchen is warm with aroma. I nibble one corner to check the seasoning and smile. When centers are softening and edges crisping, I nudge the potatoes into a baking dish and spread them out in an even layer so they'll stay crunchy while we get the topping ready. If one breaks, that's the cook's text. Back to the board for the sweet side of savor. I have an onion pole to pole and slice into neat half rings. Keeping the root end on for the first cuts makes the arcs tidy. I separate the strands with my fingers so they cook evenly. A small amount of olive oil in the pan and then the onion. Medium heat again. I stir just enough to keep it moving and let the natural sweetness emerge without rushing to brown. If your eyes sting, refrigerate the onion for 10 minutes or chop while holding your breath. This is the calm middle of the recipe. The potatoes sit patiently, the onion mellows, and the house acquires the understated dinner scent that attracts everyone to the kitchen. Tell me in the comments whether you like your potatoes tiny and extra crunchy, or a little bigger with a soft center. And if you're new here, subscribe so that you can find this cozy kitchen again. In a minute, we'll add bright pepper, then mushrooms, and fold this mellow mixture back over the golden potatoes. The onions are sweet and soft, so I add a splash of color. I drop a thinly sliced and ribboned red pepper into the center of the pan first, where it's hottest, then fold it through so it stays bright but still picks up a subtle sheen on the edges. I spread everything out into one layer and let the steam escape. That's where the subtle sweetness comes through. If the surface is dry, I add a teaspoon of water instead of more oil and hear the fond release cleanly. My daughter always says that this step smells like summer, and she's right. While the pepper softens, I brush a handful of mushrooms and slice them so they still have a bit of bite. They go in with a little clearing in the middle so the first contact is direct heat, not steam. Then I draw the onions and pepper back over them. The mushrooms yield a sip of juice, a light sprinkle of seasoning across the whole pan rather than a heap in one spot. Then another minute or two of casual frying so that the spices bloom and the vegetables become friends with each other. Tiny choices like spacing and gentle heat make simple ingredients taste special. In the next beat, we'll fold this savory mixture over the golden potatoes, tuck in the green florets, and whisk a quick, creamy batter that bakes into a tender, sliceable top. Now the green. The broccoli, having cooled, falls in, and I slide some of the florets down the sides so that each slice is colored. If one looks too big, I have it for a neater serve. Now it's time for the creamy base. 3 eggs get dumped into a bowl, and a tiny pinch of salt stirs them awake. I beat in small circles just until the surface evens out and a thin ribbon falls back and disappears. Next comes Greek yogurt or sour cream, 2 spoonfuls by weight that are more generous than modest, and the texture turns pale and soft. My husband says that this step is where comfort comes into the kitchen. Flour snows in. I take it in 2 or 3 dustings and whisk in from the sides so no dry pockets hide in the bottom. What I am looking for is a pourable batter that drops from the spoon in an unbroken ribbon, neither thick nor thin. If it is too heavy, I thin it out with a splash of milk. If it is too thin, I give it a minute's rest. My last flourish here is dill. I shave it thinly so that the green specks distribute evenly and the flavor isn't overpowering. I fold it through with a spatula until the top is evenly speckled. Friends, help out my channel with a like if these small tips make cooking less stressful, and tell me what city you're watching from. Next beat, we'll spoon this savory mixture over the golden potatoes, tuck in the green florets, and whisk a quick, creamy batter that bakes into a tender, sliceable top. I mix the batter once again and let it sit a moment so tiny bubbles come to the top. Cheese is our subtle finale before the oven. I grate a block of mozzarella on the coarse side so it melts in loose strands instead of thick blobs. If the cheese is warm, 5 minutes in the fridge keeps the shreds tidy. I sprinkle a light dusting from edge to edge and leave a fingertip of space along the rim so the sides set clean and lift easily later. Into the oven it goes, on the middle shelf on even heat. I close the door gently and set the timer for 30 minutes. The timer sings and the kitchen is warm and fragrant. I place the dish on a rack for a minute so the steam settles and each slice holds neat on the plate. The top is a little blistered, the herbs stick out like green confetti, and the vegetables still look like themselves. I cut into a square and the inside is tender but not dense, exactly what I require of a weeknight bake. We carry it to the table. Our beagle performs his absolute best polite sit, and someone always asks for seconds. Enjoy, friends, and before you go, let me know what city you are watching from and how many points out of 10 you would give this recipe.